Michelle again. It's been a while since I made a video, so I figured it would be good time to just go ahead and recap what I've been through before and what I'm about to go through now. So I've already completed a surrogacy journey. Little baby actually just turned 2 about 2 weeks ago, which is crazy because it feels like I just had him last month. I feel like no time has passed at all. I cannot believe that I went through that entire journey, and it's already been 2 years since then. So I'm excited and happily moving into my second surrogacy journey right now. We've hit a few bumps in the road because that's what happens with surrogacy. One of the first couples I matched with, their fertility clinic turned me down based off some of my medical history that happened with the first surrogacy baby. For me, it was nothing huge, but for this fertility clinic, they were opposed to it. I'd already had a previous fertility clinic approve me, even after reading all these medical records. So all these fertility clinics have their own different standards that they want to follow, and I completely understand why they wouldn't want to move forward. So I had to say goodbye to that couple. After that, I was matched with a new couple who was very similar to the first couple that I had worked with and who I had completed a journey with. They were both based out of China. They both had been married together for a while. They both had a previous child and from another relationship. They were both just looking to grow their family and have a second baby. And so I was super excited to work with them. They kind of had a lot of the same ideas as far as what they were looking for in a surrogacy. They weren't really, a lot of the times what I find is that some parents are looking to have a very normal relationship with their surrogate. They don't want to talk too often. They really only want to focus on like what's happening with the baby. And I completely understand that. Having just text messages / phone calls back and forth about what's happening at the next appointment, how far along the baby is, how my shots are doing, stuff like that. I know that there's other intended parents that don't want to have as close of a relationship with their surrogate. Every intended parent has a different relationship with their surrogate, and that's completely understandable. That's a huge part of the matchmaking process, is asking personal questions as well as asking questions about what kind of journey they're looking for. So for me, I'm kind of happy either way. If the intended parents want to talk often, I can make that happen. If they don't want to talk that often, I'm also okay with that for my own well-being. And I think it's also requested most of the time. I like to send pictures every time I go to a doctor's appointment. I like to send the heartbeat if we get a reading at the doctor's appointment, which almost always happens. I love to send pictures of me at the clinic. I love to send even pictures of my plate. A lot of the times the intended mothers specifically are interested in what I'm craving and what baby is wanting more of lately. So if I'm having a specific craving that I like to have, then I will take pictures of my meals and send them to the intended parents, and that made my first set of intended parents really happy. So I really enjoy sending pictures that I remember to take, videos I remember to take. My intended parents never requested any. I don't know if it's because I was already sending the ones I think that they were the most interested in, but we had a good relationship. It felt comfortable. We spoke when we needed to speak. We spoke when something big was happening with baby, or when I had a doctor's appointment, or when I was able to take pictures. I never felt like they pushed a boundary with me. I felt like we had a really good relationship and we understood when the other people wanted to speak. All I'm saying is me and my intended parents had an amazing relationship. We would speak to each other when the other one requested it, and we never said no. They never acted like I was burdening them with information, and I never felt like they were burdening me with asking questions and wanting to talk. So I had a really good relationship with them, and I'm very hopeful. All of this started because I was talking about the intended parents that fell through. I matched with a second couple earlier this year. Their fertility clinic was actually through the same fertility clinic that I worked through previously, and when I finally got medically cleared because my uterine lining was thick, they unfortunately had to end their surrogacy journey. So I had spent a few months working with that clinic, taking different medications, making sure my uterine lining was thick enough, and then it just took a few months for my body to recover, I think, from the failed transfer, as well as being on and off their medication. They had me taking estrace, which I think women react differently to. When I was on the estrace, my uterine lining was not thick enough, but then the first month they had me off of it, it was. So I think for me, it was better to not be on that pill version of estrace. I do know that I do a liquid version, a shot version every 3 days of estradiol when I'm actually doing the surrogacy journey and preparing for embryo transfer, and then after embryo transfer, and that has never negatively impacted my uterine lining. So I don't know what's different about the pill version that caused that, but I'm hopeful that this new clinic doesn't have that. So my matching did fall through with the previous parents because they had some sort of emergency pop up, so they ended their journey. So I matched with an intended mother. She is single. She has 3 embryos that are healthy and ready for transfer. One of them is a girl and 2 are boys, and she is hoping for a daughter. So this would be my first time carrying a little girl, and I I'm really hopeful that it will stick the first time. Right now in our matchmaking process, we've both said yes to meeting each other and to working together. We met and had our matchmaking meeting that took about an hour. We asked questions back and forth. She asked me questions about like, what food do I eat? How often do I exercise? What does my job look like? Just trying to get an idea of like what my day-to-day activities are. My questions typically centered around how often do you want to speak? How often do you want pictures? Do you want breast milk pumped at the end of the journey? Which for her, she hadn't even thought to get to that point yet. Because for her, she's still in the very early stages of the surrogacy. She's focused on finding a healthy surrogate who will carry her baby. So she hadn't really thought about what happens after baby's born, whether or not she wanted to use formula or use breast milk. And I thought that was so interesting because I guess I hadn't really thought about it when I was pregnant with my son, whether or not I would want to pump breast milk or breastfeed or use formula. But I guess that happened faster for me because I was not trying to get pregnant with my son. So I was a few months into my pregnancy when I finally started thinking about it. We have no pregnancy yet, so it hasn't crossed her mind. So that was something that she gets to think on. And I'm happy either way. I did end up pumping breast milk for my son, and I was able to pump for a full year. So he never had formula, which was amazing. And I was very blessed to have a successful pumping journey. And then with the surrogacy baby that I had, they wanted the breast milk while I was in hospital, and they were grateful for all of it. But he flew back to California really quickly. I live in Missouri, so I delivered here in Missouri, pumped breast milk for him while he was here at the hospital. And then within 24 hours, he was flying out to California and then flying home to China. So they didn't really have a need for my breast milk, and they just went straight to formula feeding, which is totally fine. I, however, enjoyed the pumping journey that I had because I know that it helped shrink my uterus back down and help my body kind of return back to normal after having a baby. And I know that there's other babies out there that could use the breast milk. I looked into it a couple different corporations and ended up choosing NICU to work with. That's NI-U for NICU babies. These are babies that are in the neo intensive care unit, and sometimes the mothers that have early babies, like if you have a preemie baby, the milk doesn't come in quite fast enough. So a lot of these mothers are relying on donated breast milk and relying on formula. So I knew that if whatever I pumped was going to be going to these NICU babies, that I was helping somebody else along the way. So not only did I get to help my surrogacy family by giving them their child, but then I also got to provide 3 months worth of pumping breast milk to these NICU babies. So no matter what this intended mother decides, I will most likely be doing my pumping journey again, just because I did enjoy pumping it was only 3 months. That goes by so fast. And half of that I was on maternity leave. So it was very easy to keep a pumping schedule going. And I do think that it benefited me physically, and I was able to benefit those children as well. So if she wants breast milk, I'm happy to do so. And if she doesn't want breast milk, I will be contacting NICU again and setting that up. So fingers crossed for either way that I get to continue this surrogacy journey and I get to go into a pumping. Right now we both said yes to our matches, and now we're currently going through all of the kind of the medical history of what I have provided to the fertility clinic. They're going over what my previous births were like, what I've gone through before surgery-wise, which isn't a lot for me. And after they go over my medical history, then I will go into my psych evaluation. So I've been through the psych evaluation before with Giving Tree, and I know how simple it is, and I know that me and my husband will pass. I've been through a surrogacy before. I don't see why I wouldn't, because I know that I'm of sound mind, and I've been through a surrogacy journey, and I know what it can bring. I know about how slow-paced they are. I know about the patience it's taught me. I know about the injections, about the different hormone side effects that I'm gonna have from all of this, and I know what it feels like to have a baby and then give it to their parent. It did not negatively affect me, so I am ready and willing to do this again, and I know that my psych evaluation will go well. So after that, I will be doing blood work. I'm a little excited about this part of it. So with my previous journey, I flew out to California for my medical clearance, and they did a pap smear as well as a saline solution. They put saline solution up into your uterus to see how well your uterine holds the water, and it can also show them different parts of your uterus to show whether or not you have a healthy uterus and whether it's suitable for surrogacy. And then we did blood work there as well. So all of that was done in California. With this clinic, they're wanting me to do the blood work here in my hometown. And then after the blood work comes through, then I will fly out to California as long as everything's clear. I don't do drugs, I don't have any history of disease, and I've been through the blood work before for surrogacies. So I'm hopeful that my blood work will be good and then I will be able to move forward to the next step of the surrogacy. But I do know that every fertility clinic is different. Like I said, there was that other fertility clinic that did not want to work with me because of my medical history. I'll go ahead and talk talk about it a little bit because maybe somebody else has been through this. With the IVF that I went through to get pregnant with a surrogate baby, I did have my placenta was stuck to my uterus, and when they tried to pull the placenta out, it ended up ripping, and they had to kind of pull it out in chunks instead of it coming out in one piece. And while that experience was okay, I did have some heavy bleeding a few weeks after delivery, and I went straight to the ER. They took me in. I knew all of that was going to be covered under insurance, and they did find a piece of retained placenta. So what that means is while they were taking all of it out, there was just a piece that was not removed and that they weren't able to catch at the time, and my body was still trying to pass it, but it wasn't passing naturally. It can't. So I had to have a D&C to remove that retained placenta. It was a very easy procedure. They put me under. I was maybe under for 30 minutes or less. They removed the retained placenta, and I had a healing rest of my journey. Another 3 weeks on maternity leave, but within 24 hours, I felt better. The heavy bleeding stopped immediately, and I had a normal, healthy recovery. After the D&C, I tried to do a surrogacy journey again with my previous parents, and when I flew out to the fertility clinic to have my uterus checked out, they found some scar tissue from the D&C. And so they went ahead and they performed a hysteroscopy, and they went in and they removed that scar tissue and any other issues that they thought they saw. They just kind of general about it. They're like, remove the scar tissue and anything else. Okay, so they did that, and after the hysteroscopy, they looked at my uterus again and they said everything was good and I was ready to move forward with that journey. When I matched with this newest couple, they took a look at my medical history and saw that I had the D&C and the hysteroscopy, and because of that, they declined me being a surrogate. So it was interesting to see the two different clinics and kind of what their guidelines are for surrogacy journey, because one was immediately okay with it, like, yeah, you have scar tissue, that's fine, we'll scoop it out. And then the second one was like, oh, you had a D&C and a hysteroscopy, you can't work with us. So I'm nervous. I guess I'm both excited and nervous because this clinic has already seen that I have the hysteroscopy and the D&C, and they are still willing to move forward with my blood work and checking out my uterus. The previous clinic that denied me did not even look at my uterus. They did not have me fly out to California. They don't know how well the hysteroscopy went in my mind. So I think they declined me rather quickly. So I'm excited that this other clinic saw that and is not hesitant to move forward. So as long as everything still looks good with my blood work, which it should, and as long as the psych evaluation goes well, and it should, then I am hopeful that I will be flying out to California for my medical clearance, where they will do the saline solution and the pap smear as well. I have not flown out to San Francisco before, so I'm a little nervous about that. With both of my other journeys that I had started, it had been with the same fertility clinic. I remember flying out to California by myself for the first time, and while I was nervous, it went much faster than I anticipated. I think I was only gone for about 36 hours, which was very quick. I flew out, landed, went straight to my hotel, and then went from my hotel to the clinic the next day, and then straight from the clinic back to the airport and flew home. So it was a very quick trip. But now I've flown out to LA so many times, I'm very comfortable with LAX. I know the route that they have to drive to and from my hotel. I know the walking path from the hotel to my fertility clinic. I don't even have to Google the directions anymore. I can step out of that hotel and find the clinic. I've done it 5 times now. So I had grown very comfortable working with this fertility clinic and working with this hotel. I stayed at the same hotel every time. I flew to the same airport every time. And so I'm not nervous about flying to LA anymore. So flying to San Francisco is completely new for me. I'm just trying to remind myself that I did this the first time in LA. It's going to be a new airport, and it's going to be a new clinic, and it's going to be a new hotel. But after the medical clearance, once I'm cleared, if I'm cleared, then I'll be flying out again with my partner, my husband, and I will have already been to this airport. I will already have been to this clinic. I will already have been to this hotel. And from here, it just gets more comfortable. I just got to get through that first step. I felt very safe in California the last time I went, even though I went by myself. I'm not too nervous about traveling alone as a surrogate. That was kind of something that I was not expecting, was to travel by myself so much. I've flown out I've only flown out twice by myself, California, and then 3 times with my husband. So yeah, I've been out there 5 times with that past clinic. So I've traveled twice by myself. One of those times, it even included a 3-hour drive to another city to fly out of, because I'm kind of in a smaller city. We have a small airport here, but it doesn't go straight to California. I would have to have a layover, and I had a bad experience with a layover once. One of my layovers got delayed, and I ended up having to stay in Texas overnight by myself. And I think that was my first trip out on on the way home, I got delayed and I had to stay in Texas overnight. So it was a very scary first trip, but I'm hopeful that doesn't happen again. We've kind of figured out now there is an airport about 3 hours away from me in a really big city in northern Missouri. If I fly directly from that airport, I can go straight to the other airport, no layovers. So then even if my flight does get delayed, which happens, it will not affect another flight. So I won't have to worry about staying in another city overnight. So I am very hopeful that we'll do that again. They did pay me for mileage when I drove to the other city. It was just a 3-hour drive that I had to do myself. And a lot of the times when I'm looking at the flights, I'm landing near 11 p.m. or midnight, and they won't pay for me to stay at a hotel in a big city afterwards. So I just drive that 3 hours home. So I have driven, there was one time I ended up driving from 1 p.m. to 4 a.m. No, 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. on my own. And that was another part of the trial that got a little scary. I had an energy drink, I had music playing, I had windows down. I never once felt like I was gonna fall asleep, but I was doing everything possible to make sure I didn't feel that way. While it's nice being able to drive to the big airport and not have to have a layover, it does have that one downside. I think maybe this time I will choose, I was gonna say I'll choose an earlier flight, but that's not possible. Typically how it's been done before is I will fly out and then I land. And after I land, we drive the 45 minutes to my hotel and then I sleep there. And when I wake up, I go straight to my appointment, which we typically try to schedule 9 a.m., 10 a.m. And the whole medical clearance appointment itself takes about an hour to 2 hours, depending on how long it takes to get in to be seen for both blood work and the saline solution that they do. So it's about 2 hours. I'm normally out of there by noon. And then the latest flight back home to my state, it was around 4. So I'm going straight from the clinic from at noon to the airport and then waiting there and then flying home. But because of the time changes and because it's an almost 4-hour flight, I'm landing near midnight. I would say get an earlier flight, but that would cut it way too close to the end of my appointment. I don't know if I would make that flight. So I guess the second option would be I stay another night in California, but I don't think that any of the intended parents or Giving Tree wants to have me stay 2 nights in California just for a 2-hour visit. So I completely understand. I do have a sibling in Kansas City that I could stay with. I tried to once before and it was too nerve-wracking, so I ended up not doing that. And that's why I ended up driving home from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. I don't know what San Francisco's situation is going to be like, because like I said, it was a 45-minute drive from LA to Pasadena where my fertility clinic was. If the drive isn't quite as long, I could choose an earlier appointment and then I wouldn't have to be driving home at midnight. I'm excited to see what San Francisco's like. I have no idea what the airport's like. I don't know what the city is like. I've never Ubered there by myself before. I don't know what kind of hotel I'll stay at. I don't know a lot of things with this journey. So it's a little exciting. If I had stayed previously matched with my other parents who had to cut their journey short, it would have been pretty much identical, because not only was the family similar to my first journey, but so was the clinic. It was the same clinic and the same doctor. So it would have been the same flight at the same clinic at the same hotel. So I was pretty excited for my second journey being with them, and I was disappointed when they ended their journey. But now it's a whole slew of new. I have a single intended mother who works out of San Francisco when previously I was working with a couple out of LA. So this journey is going to be very different from my first one, and I'm excited to see what happens. So fingers crossed that my blood work and my psych evaluation go well and that I can continue moving forward with this medical clearance process. Giving Tree Surrogacy.